What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the failed experiment of David Bowie's brilliant live adventures. I'm sure as most of you Bowie fans know, this was a notorious release campaign that occurred recently that left many consumers frustrated, and coupled with horrible customer service and supply chain issues, it kind of set the gold standard on how not to handle a release campaign. There's a lot of minutia to get through in this video, so enough of the chit chat. Let's jump into what this video is all about. So this video is going to be divided into two halves. First is the sort of unboxing slash showcase of the albums from this campaign, and then the second half is going to be a general discussion on the backstory of it all, along with my personal experience. So for those that want to see the vinyl, I will be doing so now. First up is Awry Live Dallas 95. This was an unreleased recording taken from the Starplex Amphitheater in Dallas, Texas on October 13th, 1995 during the US leg of the Outside Tour. And there's also two bonus tracks recorded at the NEC in Birmingham, England, which were released as part of the Halo Space Boys CD single. Fun fact, the French phrase, which translates to "open the dog," was first used in the song All the Madmen from 1970's The Man Who Sold the World. And then Bowie reused it in the song The Buddha of Suburbia in 1993. And then the phrase was integrated into the stage show for the Outside Tour, as you can see with the photo that is used on the gatefold sleeve. Cool live shots of Bowie on the front and back. And here are the custom center labels used for the two LPs featured. Next up, in the same vein as the previous release, is No Trendy Rishoff Live Birmingham 95. This was another unreleased recording taken from the NEC in Birmingham, England on December 13th, 1995, which was the last show of the Outside Tour. Parts of the show were broadcasted by the BBC, and the two bonus cuts from Awry indeed come back from the show, but the versions featured here are different mixes, so it's not total duplication between both. There are some awesome live shots of Bowie featured on the front and back, as well as the inner gatefold. And then here are the kind of standard custom center labels. Next up is liveandwell.com. This was an album that was exclusively released on CD in 2000 to Bowie.net subscribers in limited quantities, and it received a more widespread release as part of this campaign. It was recorded at shows within Amsterdam, New York, and Rio de Janeiro in 1997 during the Earthling Tour. As an added bonus, there's also two bonus cuts which were released on a 12-inch single under the moniker The Tal Jones Index, which was an alias Bowie and his band went under for a set under the Dance Tents at the Phoenix Festival from the same year. Now, this new edition of the album features some newly designed artwork, and the gatefold jacket has a sort of photo collage featured in the background, which is rather reminiscent of the original CD artwork. Here is the back as well. And this release comes with some printed inner sleeves with a brief write-up from Bowie, along with some fan testimonials from the time frame. And the center labels include the Earthling era DB logo as well, along with the track list for each respective LP. Next up, which sort of ties in with the bonus cuts on liveandwell.com, is Look at the Moon Live Phoenix Festival 97. This was an unreleased recording taken from the Phoenix Festival in Long Marston, England on July 20th, 1997. Out of all the installments in this series, this is the heftiest one, spanning across 3 LPs. The artwork for this installment has some awesome, vibrant live shots of Bowie, and what's cool is that the logo used for the front cover and center labels is lifted directly from the Earthling artwork, which keeps this release in line since the festival appearance was from the Earthling touring cycle. Here is the triple gatefold here. And just to showcase one of the LPs, which looks the same across the board, we basically have the logo and title on one side with the track list for each respective LP on the other. Next up is Something in the Air, Live Paris 99. This was recorded at the LSE Montmartre in Paris, France on October 14th, 1999 during the Hours tour. Some of the songs from the show were released as B-sides for some of the singles taken from the Hours album, but the remainder of the show has been unreleased. The artwork has some obvious nods to the Hours artwork with the logo and some of the graphics on the front, with some great live shots of Bowie there, as well as on the gatefold. And I totally dig the sort of alternating color and image center labels featured on the respective LPs, and then the second LP is also in red. Last but not least is At the Kit Kat Club, Live New York 99. This was recorded at, obviously, the Kit Kat Club in New York City on November 19th, 1999. This show was both recorded and filmed in front of an invite-only audience of fans and contest winners. It was broadcasted on liveonline.net in December that year, and 12 of the 17 songs that were performed were released on a promo CD by Virgin, which was bootlegged heavily, and some of the tracks were released on the 7 CD single within the UK. Now, this release just includes the 12 tracks that were on the promo CD, which is a bit of a letdown for those that already own it via bootleg. However, the good thing that this release has going for it is the artwork, which out of the 6, this is my personal favorite. Very colorful and vibrant with different shots of Bowie from the show. Awesome gatefold here with the colored text, and the color scheme is also spread across the center labels of the LPs. So now that the vinyl showcase is out of the way, let's dig into the general discussion portion of the video. So the origins of Brilliant Live Adventure stem back to the summer of 2020 when Parlophone released 3 90s-era Bowie live albums only on digital and streaming platforms, and those albums were Awry, LiveandWell.com, and Something in the Air. In October of that same year, Brilliant Live Adventures was announced, and it was marketed as being a series of 6 Bowie live albums taken from the period of 1995 to 1999. The first installment was the aforementioned Awry, which led to speculation that the previous 2 90s-era live albums that were released over the summer would be a part of it, which they were, along with No Training Rishoff, Look at the Moon, and At the Kit Kat Club. Between October of 2020 to April of 2021, all 6 live albums were announced and released. These live albums were marketed as being limited one-run only pressings, with CDs being limited to 6,000 copies worldwide, vinyl being limited to 4,000 copies worldwide, and only sold direct to consumer between the David Bowie web store, the Rhino web store in the US, and the Dig web store within the UK. And this isn't the first direct-to-customer Bowie product Rhino has overseen. They did the Is It Any Wonder EP, as well as the Width of a Circle EP, both released on vinyl. Now, not to play devil's advocate, I do think these quantities are a little justifiable, given that this period of Bowie's career is more likely to be sought after by completists and diehards, as opposed to something from the 70s, but it's David Bowie. He's a large enough artist to draw up enough interest to meet a set demand. And this sort of blends with the issue of centralization with how these releases were only being offered through a handful of online retailers. The label ends up being responsible for the order fulfillment and customer service, and in turn reap all the benefits of the sales and their set prices that don't have to be split amongst distributors that sell to indie stores, corporate retail, or Amazon. A prime example of a recent reissue that worked so well was the Rolling Stones in Mono colored vinyl box set. You have 10,000 copies worldwide made, which were available at record stores, Amazon, and other retailers, so having it more within reach on all fronts works well for any consumer. And maybe to keep that sense of exclusivity, the powers that be could have held off these releases for Record Store Day, or have these be indie exclusives. There are a number of ways that it could have been done differently, but obviously it was all kept in-house. Now, here is the kicker. So Parlophone went about releasing these albums individually through a period of time, and since one may want something to hold them all in, they were offering empty boxes to be purchased that could hold all the albums. Now, these were designed to be in line with the other Bowie-era box sets that have come out over the past couple of years, such as 5 Years, Who Can I Be Now, etc. CD boxes were $18, and LP boxes were $28. You would think that if one was to buy all the installments, the box would be free, or you can just wait till all the product is finished being manufactured to sell the box with all the contents together. The first red flag was when Awry was announced and all the empty boxes sold out, and Parlophone promised that more would be available at the end of the campaign. Did they do this? Continue watching to find out. Each release was getting announced and released in swimmingly fashion, but when Something in the Air got released, that's when a bad stench was sensed, where it sold out in a matter of 30 minutes. It was set to be released at 9 a.m. GMT between both England and the US. Now, when the product had sold out on the UK website Dig, UK residents ended up going on Rhino's US site and bought out whatever stock was available there, so in the wee hours of the morning, US buyers couldn't get their hands on copies. Now, given that there was this immense demand for this product, one can imagine what happened when At the Kit Kat Club got released. Everyone congregated over to the Dig website and crashed it, which left a majority of consumers without a chance to get a copy. And this is where the problem lies with this release being so limited and only offered through select retailers. It's immediately going to attract flippers who in turn rob the opportunity from fans who want these releases and will end up reselling them for hundreds of dollars between eBay and Discogs. To add on what I had mentioned about empty boxes being made available again after the campaign was done, Rhino did take the initiative to fulfill orders, but then stated that due to a technical error, the boxes had oversold and none more were coming in. So in rather clever wording, there wasn't enough product to meet the demand initially when the campaign was announced. Time passed, and even after it was all done, there was still not enough to meet the demand, and they just put their hands up and said, that's it. So consumers were left with incomplete collections or nothing to store the releases in if they so wished. So at the tail end of March 2021, Parlophone released a statement acknowledging the poor experience consumers had with this campaign, with the inability to purchase certain titles and boxes, and would be making things right by making these titles available again to purchase. So much for the whole one-time pressing moniker, but I digress. They ultimately kept to their promise and sent an email to fans in May asking them to register their interest and notate which releases they wanted. Flash forward to August 2022, Parlophone finally announced that second presses were indeed coming. Pre-order links were provided with a release date of around December that year. Now, so far I have discussed the backstory behind this campaign. I'm now going to tell about my personal experience. So in 2020, when Awry was announced, I automatically put both the CD and vinyl on my Christmas list that year, and sure enough, I got them. Keep in mind, this was before this hyper-inflated demand was set. And some of the other releases that had come out around the time were relatively available, and I had every intention on getting them at some point. And obviously, my concerns were raised when titles started to sell out, and I was actively trying to score them from Discogs resellers and eBay auctions, which thankfully I didn't win, and this was before a second run would be announced. So for a while, I was left with just the first installment, and I felt obsolete because I am a downright completist. I wanted all the releases from this campaign. So when the pre-order links were posted in August 2022, I immediately purchased Look at the Moon, and I asked for the other releases for my birthday, which was in September. No issue waiting until December for them, and both were purchased from Rhino's US web store. I don't think I've publicly said this on camera, but I usually refuse to order directly from either artist or label web stores. While respective parties are entitled to more of a juicier share of the profits, I feel that greed cancels out a lot of the fulfillment issues that may arise. Now, I will single out indie labels and acts. Those entities are small enough to where enough care is given to their mail orders, but if you're dealing with industry giants such as Warner, Elektra, Atlantic, Universal, or Sony, it's a total crapshoot. And don't even get me started on Kiss Online's web store issues where box sets would come out and then they wouldn't ship out until roughly a month later. That's a whole other thing, but we're not talking about that in this video. But given that these live albums were exclusive to the respective outlets that they were available on, I personally had no other choice, so I went ahead and ordered from Rhino. December rolls around when the second pressings came out, and it was weird that, my orders weren't fulfilled and the products were coming up as in stock on their website. Sent them an email, and sure enough, they shipped out my order of Look at the Moon in a matter of a couple of days, and it arrived promptly at my door. So it seemed like they waited for the consumer to say something about it, which is completely inexcusable. Shouldn't fall on me to follow up. It's up to their customer service representatives and warehouse employees to get the product out on time as it's available. But I digress. As for the other releases, I had sent email after email to them asking where they were since they were stated to be in stock on the website. Kept getting automated messages saying that they cannot provide a time frame as to when they would be delivered. And I just thought to myself, seriously? Now, keep in mind, Rhino was also pushing holiday order deadlines for people to get their orders in by a certain date for guaranteed Christmas delivery. So I can only imagine the hell that may have ensued for those who fell for that. New Year rolls in, still nothing, and at this point copies were appearing on Discogs for respective prices, and I was so close to contacting the Better Business Bureau and just getting my order canceled and refunded, and I feared that an order that was well into 3 figures would fail to be fulfilled. And sure enough, at the most random time during the end of January, the rest of the releases got shipped. This was seriously an appalling move on Rhino's end to handle the fulfillment in this manner, and down to my general poor experience, I would strongly advise all of you watching to not order directly from Rhino, because more than likely you'll end up dealing with the same thing that I dealt with, I'm sure as many other people that participated in purchasing stuff from this campaign. So what's the biggest takeaway with this whole Brilliant Live Adventures campaign? Given that there was not enough supply to match the demand, and coupled with the idea of keeping it all in-house, it was indeed a failed experiment. Something on a more larger scale between both the quantities as well as the distribution to other outlets would have benefited more than to have consumers be disgruntled with the whole thing. Rhino definitely underestimated themselves in this case, and hopefully it serves as a death knell for any future idea of doing another campaign similar to this in the future. Now, I know this video delved into more of the backstory and my personal experience with this campaign, but if you guys want a video in the future where I discuss the releases more and perhaps rank them, I can certainly do so, but I am curious, if you partook in this campaign and bought the releases, what did you guys think of it, and what were your personal experiences like? Please drop a comment down below, I'd love to know. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.